It's Friday, the 30th of January, 2025. I am Jay Cleveland Payne. This is things you might not have heard from the Conversation Project. The Conversation Project, as we say very often, your home for headline news, information, and pop culture references that are worth chatting about. Today, we are chatting about all the big ones that you really want to get into. Number one thing on the list is Melania, and it is Melania, the documentary, and how the press didn't get a chance to see it, but it's going to be great, and it's already big money for Melania. Also, a new song called Streets of Minneapolis. That title may sound a bit familiar, from the artist may sound familiar. It's actually a protest song by one Bruce Springsteen. And who's going to buy these Trump gold cards? Oh, guess what? Someone's bought one, and it's causing all sorts of pandemonium right now. We'll talk about her in a bit, plus 5 other stories for the day to get into. Now, remind you that our website home is this. It's theconversationproject.com for more details on how we do the things around here. And of course, we'll talk about some of our sponsors there, for you can check it out either way. In a way, later we will give you some word on our spotlight sponsor for the day, which is Ground News, and we'll give you that in just a minute. So, as we said, it is the 30th of January. We're almost through the first month, and we're still living with. I'm still not quite as snowbound as before. City's still shut down for the snow here in Arkansas. We believe a bomb cyclone is coming to the East Coast, so we're praying for you guys because we don't want none of that either. Let's get into the news for this morning, live to you, 5:30 a.m. Central Time right now. Story number one is dealing with the First Lady and her brand new documentary, Melania. Now, it's not so much the fact that it released yesterday, not out in theaters or on streaming yet, but the Amazon people blocked actually mainstream press from actually watching the documentary last night at the premiere. This is where things are a little Amazon barred most mainstream news outlets from attending the Kennedy Center premiere of Melania, restricting the access to the small pre-approved group. Essentially, Trump and his boys saw it last night, but everybody else just had to kind of sit and chill and wait for it later. The decision immediately reframed the event from a routine documentary debut to a media access story, raising questions about editorial control and narrative management. The film centers on Melania Trump and the tightly managed rollout mirrors of the broader efforts to limit unscripted scrutiny around politically adjacent projects. Now, she is famously private, which is fine, but this is about 3 weeks going up into the inauguration number 2 into Donald Trump's ceremonial return to the White House. All the work the First Lady would have done in that wrap up is essentially in this documentary here. Reporters were actually allowed inside. They were basically lifestyle reporters or influencer-based reporters, not really Jim Acosta's hanging out there to see what was happening and see how things are going. Now, observers are noting that the move departs from standard premiere practices. This is where basically everybody's let in and typically used to build credibility and momentum, especially with something dealing with someone like the president's wife. Kennedy Center, also kind of a big deal, as the setting added to some of the friction. The new Donald Trump Kennedy Center, given the public-facing cultural institutional issues with that, rather than it just being a private studio venue, being someplace out there, just renting a theater someplace. This is essentially the people's theater, and it did not get shown as well as people thought. Meanwhile, real actual news that will affect us in hours. The Senate failed to advance a funding package to prevent government shutdown as ICE funding debate intensifies. This is the headline that we actually had from earlier in the day yesterday, and we just freshened it up for the day. But as the evening went on and people went home, the Senate basically didn't get the job done. They failed to advance a short-term funding package to increase the risk of government shutdown. And the biggest issue is disagreements over ICE funding, which has ballooned in 1 year and is threatening to go even higher. Republican leaders framed the impasse around the border enforcement and immigration operations, while the Democrats are resisting tying the broader government expansion to some expanded ICE authority. This failed vote does not immediately trigger a shutdown, and it's not going to be necessarily a full shutdown. It's hard to explain the differences. But at midnight tonight, if there's nothing in place, some agencies, some things will shut down, some things will be closed, which is especially bad as we're still dealing with lots and lots of weather issues at this moment across the nation. Strategically, ICE has become a leverage point rather than a line item. It used to be just a couple billion for ICE, no big deal. Now, with what we have as the very public faces and the very public actions of the agency are becoming something of a flashpoint, it's easy to use it as a target point to not do things or to do more things based on your side of the aisle than it is going forward. Lawmakers are signaling that the both sides argument, or both sides of the argument, if you will, is about public messaging. I guess it is a both sides argument. Rather than quiet negotiation, they're both yelling and screaming as best as possible to either add to or get rid of the agencies that are dealing with the appropriation right now. Ironically, the markets and the federal agencies that are preparing for contingency plans and shutdowns are coming about are just getting in their place in line, because we are literally hours away from happening. Because we know what happened last time. We had the longest shutdown in history, which was beaten by the last longest shutdown in history, which was both run under the guise of Donald Trump. This one is a bad one to have. We'll see if we go this far in hours. Meanwhile, Trump's going to most likely nominate Kevin Warsh as a Federal Reserve Chair today. In a few hours, we expect to hear the expected nomination of one Mr. Warsh as the new Federal Reserve Chair, not taking the job for a couple months, though, signaling a sharp pivot in monetary leadership. He's a former Fed governor, so he's done the job before. He's known for skepticism of prolonged stimulus and for criticizing the central bank's expanded role. The expectations of the nomination is already shaping expectations across interest rates policy and Fed independence. People heard about this, and the markets are already a bit in a rumbly right now because of it. Investors are parsing whether Warsh will align himself more closely with executive pressure or institutional norms. Will he basically do the president's bidding, or will he be like the guy right now and just say, sir, we can't do that, and kind of push him off? The move actually marks one of Trump's most consequential economic appointees of his new term, especially since he actually appointed the guy currently in here in his last term, and he had plenty of time to go and kind of go quietly. But that's not how we work in this administration, apparently. So Senate confirmation's got to happen, so will likely happen. There's really no reason not to confirm him, other than will he be more of a lapdog or a complete lapdog of the president. But the Senate is controlled by the Republicans at the moment. There's no reason to see why he would not be confirmed. There's a new song out called Streets of Minneapolis. It is an ICE protest song, and it's written, performed by one Bruce Springsteen, and it criticizes King Trump's private army. Releasing this song, a protest song targeting ICE tactics and what he calls state terror, he being Mr. Springsteen. The lyrics frame immigration enforcement as militarized overreach, directly criticizing Trump-era policies. The song actually positions Minneapolis as a symbolic ground zero for resistance rather than a literal narrative going forward, although you can see where the comparisons kind of go. Springsteen continues his long tradition of overt political commentary through music. Yeah, Born with the USA is a protest song. You may not know that, but it's not all happy in singing. It's about people coming back from Vietnam and not being treated so well. This kind of goes along with it. The release immediately polarized listeners, drawing praise from advocates, yeah, that word, and backlash from conservatives. The people like, I bet wish Bernstein go back to that old Born in USA, because Born in USA was a protest song and nobody knows that. Strategically, the timing places the song squarely inside a current immigration and shutdown debate. Literally, as things are going down in Minneapolis, the streets of Minneapolis are the battleground that we're seeing for this cultural war, if you will, and not quite literal warring of people yet in the streets of Minneapolis. But one who's never been one to shy away from a thought. Bruce Springsteen is putting his new music, his words, his hat into the ring with his opinion. You have every right to like, love, hate, or go along with it as you will. As you also will, or will not, we want you to do the will part, though, in liking, sharing, subscribing to the work we do here at the Conversation Project. 4 stories down for the morning and 4 more to go. If you like the stories, it helps me know that I'm picking the right pick of stories. I'm doing good bits of commentary. I'm having the fights I'm having with my respiratory issues and fighting the coughs back and forth. And you like me or you hate me. You really, really like me or hate me. Because in reality, the algorithm doesn't really care. It just looks for the little clicky things. If you like and hate me as well and want to share that like and hate with other folks, share it with other folks. Have them engage as well so we have larger gatherings together. And the biggest thing I need you to do to make it work for all of us is to subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, which we need those there. Congratulations to us hitting 3,002 subscribers as of this morning. So thank you so much. Somehow I've been slacking all month and still was able to hit that milestone. We'll talk more about that when it was to get more stable in a bit. Or on the Facebook and X, which helps a lot because 1, we still need Facebook and X, and 2, that's where we put out the feeds and the story links to various news stories and various links throughout the day to gauge your engagement and what's actually conversational, so that I don't just pick a random batch of stories every morning. I can see over the day what stories are trending on social media in my feeds, not just what's being pushed out to me because Kanye said something weird. Yeah, we didn't do the Kanye story, but we'll talk about him later. We have more Kanye to come. So like, share, and subscribe to the Conversation Project. Like, share, and subscribe to This Is a Conversation, this things you might not have heard, and many other things we do, including the hot takes we have here. Stop by the website and see where you can find us on TikTok, on other places, and get our newsletter and other things as well, which is just different forms of this. We need you to help us grow, and we need you specifically. Oh, in February, get ready for this one because it's 2 days away. We start asking in our pledge drive, even though PBS is dead, we will live through on by, asking you for, money, because that happens. Right now, just asking for clicks. In 2 days, it will be cash. The Pro Football Hall of Fame has issued a statement following Bill Belichick's vote report. This is a weird, interesting, and touchy subject where we got word that Bill Belichick will not be a first ballot Hall of Famer for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And many people scratch their heads because he led a dynasty. He's the greatest coach in, ever. He's also a pretty big jerk and a liar and a cheat and not a great person. So you have those rights. But being a liar, maybe a cheat, not a great person, does not necessarily disqualify you from being a great head coach. So with that, the Pro Hall of Fame has issued a statement to respond to a report about the voting outcomes internally for him being on the first ballot. Officials emphasize that the selection process remains confidential and independent. So nobody pushed it on anybody. It wasn't some Bengals hater that decided to push off Belichick. Well, that would have been a riot, though. The statement actually avoided confirming or denying any specific vote counts that tied to Belichick's candidacy. We don't actually know the counts, but we are rumored to hear that it's not enough on the first ballot for him to make it into the listing. Report has reignited debate on how essentially coaching legacies are evaluated relative to players. Because you can get away with a lot of players being, jerks and getting into the Hall of Fame. In this cases, your coaches have to be essentially saints or near saints to make it in there. Bill Belichick, nowhere near a saint. It is a hall officials appearing to focus on the preserving the institutional credibility amid the leaks and speculation of what's going to happen. This issue is likely to resurface once the next class is formally announced, because we know it's not going to have Bill Belichick in it. Stand by, stand down. This will continue. We will update this story as it comes along, because we know the story, the headline is Bill Belichick's not in. The big question is, who is going to make it in on that first ballot? When the announcement of the gold cards, the Trump gold cards came out, other than the what's this deal with gold, it was kind of a, who's going to buy this thing? Is this thing worth it? What sort of weird, random foreign person just is going to buy their way into their residency here in the States? One weird, random, rich foreign person apparently is Nicki Minaj, because she has flashed her Trump gold card after saying she is his #1 fan. This is bigger than going to Turning Point USA and sitting down with Erica Kirk and talking about how great and handsome and great leadership it is. At another Trump summit, Donald Trump brought out Miss Minaj herself. And afterwards, sometime afterwards, she received the Trump gold card, which is a public declaration of basically paying her way into citizenship. And she has made herself, she has called herself Trump's #1 fan. Now, people have argued, should that be Melania? That's beside the point. She's paid her way in. Let's put it like that. The gesture appears symbolic rather than tied to any formal role or policy benefit. She's not going to be the advisor to Trinidad or anything like that. She's just, saying, I love him. He's great. He says she's the greatest female rapper of all time. And she's paying whatever it costs to get one of these gold cards for sped up citizenship. Here's the thing. Nicki Minaj has been in the United States since she was 5 years old, and most people had no idea she was not an actual citizen. She's just, just like all these other folks that ICE are rounding up that are, causing mayhem and strife around the world, not bringing anything to our nation. She has been a very vocal supporter of Donald Trump in the past. Also, even calling out, the fact that, Trump wishes he had someone like a Michelle than a Melania, things like that. And now she's not saying that. The alignment adds another high-profile celebrity vibe to the Trump cultural order. It's more of him sort of digging into the zeitgeist that it is, and people scratching their heads because the fans don't actually go along with the policies that Donald Trump is pushing. But she is pushing that he's a great guy. Split reaction from supporters celebrating her stance. Hey, go for it. Be good. And critics accusing her of opportunism. Here's the thing that I'm going to say that's in my wheelhouse. And as a person who likes to want to be conservative, but conservatives seem to be a bit on the, racist side these days. It's a good sign, a good showing of equal parts if no matter what race, creed, color you are, you can make a choice of being on different sides of the political aisle, because in most cases, the politics change is economics or it's policy wise. The problem is the economics and policy wise get influenced, if you will, by a lot of this. So with that, it'd be great if there could be more blacks and more people who are of foreign origins who are I like the conservative way of doing things. Except that's not what Donald Trump does, and it's not what we're doing here, and it's just a lie in the get-go. No one really knows what the end game is for this other than maybe the Trump card was the thing. We shall see what happens in the future of this love fest going forward. Ludacris, Morgan Wade, and Carter Faith have withdrawn from the Rock the Country Music Festival. They are 3 of the latest artists on that really, 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 really big poster of names that were listed on the Rock the Country Festival that was essentially put together by Kid Rock. Organizers cite scheduling conflicts, while online backlash suggests political tension and influence in the decision, i.e., they didn't want to be Nicki Minaj, so they decided to pull themselves out. Although these 3 guys actually have fairly popular, newer things going on, they're probably pretty busy. And they didn't want to be Nicki Minaj. The festival has been positioned as a culturally conservative type of deal, drawing scrutiny from artists and fans alike. The withdrawals threaten to have the event's commercial momentum just die out and the brand stability just to be done. Having a long list of names, some of them were initially sort of AI generated, but once confirmed that people will be there, and then people lose momentum, leave those concerts, it becomes a thing. This reflects a growing friction between artists and politically branded festivals. If this was just a rock the country a thing that was just, we love our country, come see these artists, it'd be great. The problem is it's all kind of wrapped up in the flag, pun intended, and there are people who are using this as a way to push the cudgel we have right now. Is it good? I don't know. Is Ludacris the guy you really want to see at a Kid Rock concert? I don't know. but you won't see him at this Kid Rock concert because he has pulled himself out of the workings for this one. And finally, the Writers Guild of America have authorized, or the staff of the Writers Guild of America has authorized a strike, and they accuse guild leaders of bargaining in bad faith. The WGA has authorized a strike, accusing bad faith of bargaining from leadership in trying to work things out. They are essentially months away from some contracts, some deals, and they're just like, we're gonna just walk. The vote reflects international labor conflict and internal labor conflict rather than dispute with the studios. Inside of the guild, there are people who are thinking that the people are not working in their best interest to negotiate with the other guilds, with the other labor unions, with the other groups. And so they're essentially saying, we're just going to strike for ourselves till our people get things straight. The staff are arguing that the management failed to address workload, compensation, and transparency concerns of the actual workers. Leadership disputes that the characterization is wrong, saying negotiations remain active in all issues, and they're actually working towards something good and not just sort of waffling in the place. The staff strike could disrupt guild operations and include arbitration and memorial member services. Things like pushing for paperwork for insurance and for things like that could get held back because the staff isn't working. It's what's weird is there's this picture, this large Hall of Justice picture of this Writers Guild of America. That's where they live, that's where they work, that's where things happen. And you would think that able to pay the rent for some place like that might be a bit of an extra thing. It could be. But this is not what you picture when you think about the writers in the last batch of strikes that were, we had no TV and everything was reality for the summer of the going on. The real deal is the situation exposes labor tensions inside institutions. This is not the management fighting with the other management. This is not the guild fighting so much with their actual labor, their actual bosses. This is internal. This is weird. This is things that are not so clean on the inside. So because it's not, it's harder to really gauge what's going on. But the reality is whatever's going on, it's hurting the people who are the regular lay members, not so much the staff and definitely not so much the people that own the studios who have all the money in the first place. This is one we got to keep an eye on going forward because it takes a bit more explanation, a bit more understanding, and a bit more sort of a sign, just kind of like a, okay, with that one. Instead of just complaining about those damn folks and their damn unions, you have to actually listen to the words that are being said by the sides. The words being said by the various news organizations make a difference in how you gauge your information and news. And we want to make sure you are gauging your information and news with the best words possible, or in more specific terms, all the words possible by using Ground News. Ground News is a service that aggregates news from across the all overs, everywheres, the pieces, and gives you the best in what's happening and the worst in what's happening and all in between by letting you see what organizations are saying what about what. Seriously, whether it's your favorite blogs, your favorite podcasts, or a storied news organization, you can see who is working behind the scenes to fund those operations, work those operations, and what sort of political bent they tend to work on back and forth. And one of the cooler things about Ground News is their blind spot feature, which allows you to see what stories you're being overly shown because certain types want you to see so much of things, or see what stories you're being undershown because certain types want you to not see certain things. It's a great thing, a great deal, and you can get great deals from them by using our affiliate link. We get a small commission back from you using the link. You can get deals up to 40% off their Advantage plan, their big stinking deal of news, by using this one. And we have that plan, and we use it daily as we check various stories throughout the day to see how they're going to play back and forth. Some stories we decide not to do because they don't seem to play as well. Some stories we are convinced once we realize they're a bit more intricate, and when we see the big clash between a conservative and a liberal view of the story, what both sides are doing, we put it in there. Sometimes we'll put the conservative link on a headline that's more liberal. to see what happens and how people freak out. We do that sometimes. So check it out for yourself at thisistheconversationproject.com/ground news. When you check it out for yourself, you help us out. We get a small commission back. Thank you so much for that one. And you get a chance to be better at the news game your own self. I want to remind you that our website home is thisistheconversationproject.com and that our email address is theconversationinbox@gmail.com, and our feeds on Facebook and X allow you to see the stories we're posting every 50 minutes, emails, links, things to look at to see what we're gauging at might be engaging for the next iteration of one of these things or for one of our hot takes as we make time for those things. Not much time for hot takes lately because we've been working from home and it's snowed in, taking care of things. So it has been an interesting week here for us here, but we're doing our best to do what we can to stay relevant. And as you know, we're still on, semi exile. So it's hit or miss how we're doing things. Let me know how today's episode hit or missed, and we will work on things going forward to make things more standard. Meanwhile, today has been the January 30th edition for 2026, Friday edition of Things You Might Not Have Heard. I want to thank you so much. I am Jay Cleveland Payne. I love you. I mean it. Our next edition of this will be Monday morning. We'll see if we get some hot takes of various things and work out some stuff. And Trump's been kind of quiet on the Western, Eastern, and all fronts. So he has not done a lot of things to sort of give us weekends of Trumps. But I think this weekend may be a bit of a shift. So we may have some things popping up. Plus, we're going to catch up on some hot take things because we want to share some things with you as well. So with that, love you. Mean it. We out.